Hello, everybody. So happy I could join you for the hybrid conference and that I was invited to be with you all today. Though I'm joining you remotely, I'm still there with you in some way across space and time, very much present with you for the entirety of the conference. And I will say that when Sheila invited me to present for the conference, I went like, I don't think I'm a hybrid. I think you have the wrong lady. Like, I don't really identify with that so much. And we kind of had a laugh on the phone because I realized, and she was helpful in pointing this out to me, like you've integrated it so much that you don't really think twice about it. And Sheila, you were right on about that. Very much integrated that more multidimensional and galactic aspect of my aspects, I should say, multiple aspects of my being. So with that, I had some things to contemplate as I was kind of moving toward recording this for you all. My name is Rebecca Rose, and I work as an energy intuitive, a seer, and a channel. For my work in the world, that's my full-time gig. So I guess we could say I'm very integrated with again, like my galactic aspects and my multidimensional self, and my awareness of what I call the other world, the quantum realm in which we are always we are existing within that multidimensional sphere of existence all the time. But as far as hybrids go, I mean, it's an interesting question. I'll have to listen to the other presenters on this because it's a little bit amorphous, isn't it? What is a hybrid? And yeah, I feel like in some ways, aren't we all? We're so many things. I work in the Akashic records predominantly with clients. That's one of the big things that I do. And I know from my years of doing this that we all have, we've been through many embodiments, many lifetimes playing light and dark. This is just in human form, right? This isn't our first rodeo here in a bodysuit. And likewise, it's the Akashic records I actually call the galactic Akashic records because they show us too our galactic inheritance and who we've been or may still be in a parallel, existence as a more galactic or extraterrestrial being. So I very much identify with that, and just again happy to be here and see what I might have to offer of usefulness to you all. So we all have so much knowledge. We all have, whether you relate with, oh, I'm a hybrid, I'm not a hybrid, that particular label, we all have so much that we can tap into in our own human and non-human experience to illuminate the life that we're living in this timeline, this beleaguered, suffering timeline we seem to be moving through right now. I do see a lot of transformation going on within the midst of what would, again, appear to be a lot of chaos and duplicity, quite a bit of degraded energy going on in the surface of our world. But relating this with what I see in client sessions is that so many people in this past year come to me and said, oh my God, I have been down such a rabbit hole and it's been a really steep curve. And like, I woke up to so many things and it happened so fast and I'm really struggling. It's like amazing, but my life is really disheveled. and where I'm going with that is that there's so many people during this time of, 2020, 21, COVID, the whole thing is waking people up at an unprecedented rate. And I bet there's people nodding in the audience going, yes, that happened to me. It's why I'm here, because I don't really get it all. And, maybe I'm a couple years ahead of you on the journey, but I'm not. I mean, there's so many things that I don't get, which is a beautiful thing. I feel, at least from my own journey, that I'm really tasked with developing my consciousness to its fullest potential is really the forefront of what I apply myself to in this lifetime right now. I think it's really how I came if I look at, well, how did this stuff start turning on for me? How did I come to recognize this? I identify with, Andromedan, Syrian, Lyran, Pleiadian aspects, and beyond that. I don't necessarily get so into the labels of star systems and this, that, and the other. Naming everything can be a third density linear preoccupation, in my opinion. But it was how did I come into that? It was very much through the vehicle of my sitting practice, my spiritual development, my meditation. So I've spent thousands of hours on a meditation cushion in silence. In the early part of those years is very much working with my kleshas and my confusion, my ineptitude, all my traumas and dramas and negative emotions and density and fear and pain and all that. Those things come up on the meditation cushion for you. You'll nod if you've, so many people also say to me, I've tried, I can't really sit still. I can't just work with the breath and, be at peace with that because my mind is wild. And that's normal. That's normal. But again, bringing it back to myself and how did this stuff start waking up? I know that I had access to it in childhood. And then I went through a long forgetting, long forgetting, and lots of different, addictive behaviors, compulsive disorders, lots of running away, tons of trauma in my background. And I will touch on that as relevant to this conference here in my talk. But I can't advocate enough for endeavoring to embark on a meditation path of some kind, even a small way. We have to make room for stillness and silence to really hear the call of our sovereign self that is ringing across the eternal space to find you. The all that you are is written inside of you. It's not really somewhere else. But I tell this to people when they come see me, who want to open up to more of their multidimensional capacity and their star heritage, if you like, that I say, well, are you able to make some time for the practice of stillness and silence or contemplative pursuits? And like, no. Well, a lot of times they're trying to reach us, but they can't because we are in such a busy-minded reality now, or very linear, and we kind of live from the neck up. And it can really be an inhibitor. I will say this for myself. I'll speak for myself and say, without meditation, I just be, grinding away, pushing the rock Sisyphean style up over the mountain every day, every year after year, not really coming to understand the full breadth and depth of what I had access to inside. And I will keep doing this for the rest of my decades in this body and never get to the end of it, because our consciousness is infinite and it's wed with the realms, all the realms beyond form. It's so beautiful. That's why I'm so, it's so interesting. I feel like I've lost interest in so much of the flash and bling of, whatever, social media, this, that, and the other, all the technology, all that. Because what's inside waiting to be tapped is so interesting. And what reveals itself there in that liminal, subtle realm, that numinous space is really beyond words. So with that, I would say, whether or not you identify as a hybrid, I bet most of you here are, most of us are from up there. You can always, you can still tap into that, that great wisdom stream that comes from the stars, comes from beyond. We have gateways and portals within us that are, we can open up to that, in a way that is really astonishing. And in my sessions too, I see that there's the occipital, there's a chakra back here that I keep seeing that wanting to open up in people, and it seems to be relevant to our times now. I think some people have called it the ninth chakra. I call it the cup of God. It's very much related to the pineal, but it's as all the chakras really are, gateways to the cosmos, our little personal Stargate factory. Isn't that interesting though, huh? How about that? Sit in meditation and breathe as if you're breathing through that area at the base of your skull. So I'm off on a little bit of a tangent or a riff there, but bear with me. I'll try and stay. When I do an interview, there's two of us and the interviewer can keep me on track. So I wrote down notes, so I maybe will have a path through the brush and not get too sidetracked. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, the remembering who we are and what we came here for. Remembering who we are and what we know. This is the biggest opening we have to jump into that is right now. We're really tasked with turning on that, remembering that. So I already said I relate with a variety of galactic aspects. Very true. And they do, I'm going to touch the lighter version of my let's say hybrid experiences first, and we'll go into the blurb about my talk. Also, we are going to go into some darker DNA and things like that, and bring it around to light again. So with myself, I experience my more extraterrestrial aspects as coming through my body. So when I'm in a session with a client and say I'm opening the Akashic records, I often see myself as they will see me here in 3D. I would see me here in 3D on the screen, but my visceral presentation in the etheric is extraterrestrial. Like I have, experiencing like a white light, tall, very tall life, kind of big-headed being, and with a different organ set, like these stacked organs. They are not bilaterally symmetrical. That comes through me, and it's part of my Pleiadian aspect. I also have an Andromedan aspect that comes through. So much to this. And I also experience, and I thought I'd give some of the kind of weird details of how this presents to me, because it might like light something up in somebody rather than speaking of it in really kind of general, more vague terms. The left side of my body also seems to be, I have a bit of a hard time with this side staying in this corporeal third density. This left side and right side have kind of different perceptions, let's say. Like the left side, I always see filled with the stellar scape. So the deep, dark night sky with stars in it is often how my body is on this side. And this is where also the side where the galactic embodiment of which I've spoken comes through in my perception. It's very easy, and then spreads into the right side. My right side is more what deals with corporeal temporal reality. Not that they're not integrated and part of one me, Rebecca, in all that I am, but I've noticed that, and I think that was a part of me. We tend to be really porous, and I know I was vetted for the dark projects, which I will speak on a little bit later here, because of that porosity. And you have to be careful with that, because this could be a great disadvantage if you were unaware of how porous you actually were, and could be then co-opted. And that was very much a part of my childhood in this family with dark reptilian DNA in it, my mother's side of the family, easily co-optable. So that was wanted back in the day, back in the 70s. I was born in 72, I'm almost 50 years old. So well, like a long time ago. But that could be, it's a double-edged sword. So now it's to my advantage, because I can work the light realms more easily, or have, how would I say that a little differently? Have access to the multidimensional numinous realm much more easily. through this kind of porous nature. It allows me to, I don't know, this is a bit weird, but see into other people's chakra systems and organ systems, their bodies, their energy field much more easily. So I wouldn't change it, but it takes some, it has taken me, and I still have to work with this, like I have to be able to be the master of this. So I am not mastered by a dark being, for example. But, you know, that's the case whether or not you're speaking of this particularly maybe odd anomaly that I'm talking about, this adaptation that allows me to be in both realms. I mean, either way, we have to be careful with what I might call spiritual hygiene and in our discernment in what we're opening ourselves to. Remembering that we're powerful creatures. Like I've said, we are as big as the stars, and eternity is inside of us. It's inside of our hearts, first and foremost, and it's in our cells, it's in our DNA, untapped potential of our DNA. Sometimes I think we've been tampered with by so many different beings because it's like we haven't quite hit the tipping point where most of our race, or maybe we have, has tuned in and begun to tap into their infinite potential. I think that time is upon us now. But maybe because we, in so many ways, have been, you know, routed away from that endeavor of exploration. Maybe the other races have come in, they're more regressed races, and said, let me help you with that. You have things I want, DNA and other things, but also many light races, many very highly ascended races have also been working with us. We could say, we've been working with ourselves as star people to get ourselves to awaken to, again, that full human embodiment and that full human potential, which is also so much related with our star heritage and our DNA, extraterrestrial genetics. Like, it's so fascinating looking into galactic history. Yeah. So again, I'll just say, you know, there's so many ways, because people will say to me, well, how else do we turn this on? How else do I come into contact with this? We've talked about meditation, I would say too. Sounds really simple. Look up, look at the stars, form a relationship with the stars. Some of you probably have done that. I always recommend, I know it sounds wicked simple, like overly simple, but if you live in a place where you can see the sky, you have access to some dark sky, make a relationship. What do we have right now? I think last night I was walking at night in the watershed, and I was looking up at Venus. There are star seeds and star being hybrids that have come here through the gateway of Venus. But anyway, I was really felt being nurtured by that, the more of a feminine influence there that I was really drinking in last night after dusk out there, really letting that come into my third eye and hence into my body. But we've also got Arcturus, you can see really well right now. I mean, I don't think Pleiades is Sirius, those are gone for a little while, but Antares to me is always like the gateway into Andromeda, very powerful. And you can see that in the Scorpio constellation right now. It's endless. I mean, just go out and learn your sky, and you begin to make relationship with the other world, with the sky realm, the sky beings, and your own past, your own parallel reality when you're doing this. So again, I say it might sound rather simple, or something maybe we don't think about. You know, we're driving home, we get out of the car, we go in the house, that's that. Oh no, pause, please pause. Is it dark out? Please pause. That's again another place where you can pause for a moment of stillness and feel your feet on the earth. Feel your feet on the earth below you, this living, breathing being, the trees and rocks and plants and stones and waters of our earth, primordial earth, which of course is from the sky too. Sky is not separate, but feeling that below you, this living, breathing being, and then the sky above you. There's something that unlocks in you as you do this. It's very simple old medicine from the ancient world. It's always available to us. Even if we live in the most stricken urban environment, we can still do that. The earth is still below your home. The sky is still above your apartment, high rise. So I would also say that this is a unique thing that my I have a Pleiadian body that turns on, my Pleiadian aspect turns on. And by the way, there's so many Pleiadians running around our planet right now. It feels like there's lots of different Pleiadian groups, right? Most predominant race here embodied as humans on Gaia right now. I don't know if anybody else can corroborate that, but I see it over and over in the people I work with, and of course myself. I have experienced this. But I have a lot of old trees around here. They're hundreds of years old, and there's one in particular. For whatever reason, I put my hands on this big old tree. It's huge. I mean, the girth of it is, I don't even know, I could never fit my arms around it. It's many, many, armfuls of tree. When I put my hands on that, my body changes, and I feel myself as that Pleiadian aspect. This started happening a few years back, and what I learned from the tree, the tree told me that they just have this strong, they're the bridge between earth and sky. And they can kind of downstep the higher star people energy for us to make it a little more available. So that, the first night that first happened, blew me away, because you'd never expect to stick your hands on a tree and then kind of go into this otherworldly realm, have it appear in your body and walk home as a Pleiadian. So partook of that a bit this morning on my morning walk. Try it, it might work for you. I mean, the trees are grounded in earth, and they're always reaching up into the sky. Mm-hmm. And they can kind of be the handmaiden to some of the more galactic experiences that you might have. I find that a really fascinating thing. And then I also, I know we've got lots of people are waking up to light language right now, yeah? I mean, people watching, I think other presenters, also light language opening up like mad on this planet, so beautiful. I think the star beings, our families, were trying to find ways to reach us that would circumvent and allow us to circumvent that hard line, sort of the linear conceptual mind that is so dominant in us right now. We tend to be very, to use right brain, left brain analogy, very dominant in the left brain, the linear side. We're always working with the conceptual, and we've lost touch with the intuitive, the mystical, the numinous, what I sometimes call a women's way of knowing something, where it just kind of bangs in. It just comes down and you know this thing without any conceptual, you didn't get it out of a book. Somebody didn't tell you this. You just know it. And that's available to everybody, regardless of gender. That's just my sort of shorthand for it. But anyway, back to the light language. I woke up to that, I don't know, 6 years ago, I forget time. And it started coming through late at night in meditation, where I'd be falling asleep on my cushion in meditation, right? I'd start to nod off a little bit, and this languaging would come through, and it was perplexing. I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And then eventually it came through, it would start coming through when I woke up in the morning. All these long tones were coming through, and then all the other languages over many different, I want to call them dialects, but I often feel like it's my galactic self that is kind of gotten an antenna up and sort of transceiving a variety of different, it's hard to call them languages, streams of energy consciousness. is what I would say. It's very beautiful. It's very elevating to those who hear it and to those who speak it. I always feel very like it brings me up in my frequency when it's coming through. In my Akashic Records sessions, for example, it's how I get a lot of information through channel. And the light language comes through first through me. And then I couldn't call it quite a linear translation of that, but it's a close approximation of what I've been given through light language to understand for my client. It just comes down that way. We'll see if light language makes an appearance in our time together here. So, I would also say, just kind of a funny aspect, that a lot of times when I'm speaking light language, particularly in my healing sessions, or just, me with myself at home alone, I feel like a short, old, brown woman. It's beautiful. And it's the grandmothers who come through me. There's one in particular that I would say is me. But the interesting thing about that is the grandmothers, I just call them that loosely, they're indigenous women, old wise women healers who come from many different times and places on our planet. But they always say, we come from there. And they laugh at me and they say, do you think you're really a tall white lady? Look at yourself. You're just one of us. Oh, you're not so. No, you're just one of us. And we all have a good laugh. They have a good sense of humor. Very good sense of humor. They've seen everything and they're like, they just say, the grandmothers just get right to the point, but it's humorous. Yeah. All right. Well, and remember, all of this is just, it's so helpful to us now. All this stuff that's coming through, all the people that are waking up, everything we have access to. We're in such a potent portal to discover so much more about ourselves and our experience. Like we're really being aided by this gateway that I feel we're in right now to kind of quicken the process for our own awakening. Yeah. So, and of course, the star contact, I mean, you guys know this, it opens up your intuition, your sight, your insight, and it opens up the heart. It opens up the heart. If you've ever connected with star family, this happens in my sessions too. It's like, it's so emotional, can be very emotional and moving, and it helps our hearts have gotten really shut down, and they're the most powerful vehicle that we have to connect with anything, is the heart. The heart is a connector, and it's also the most potent, in my experience, the most potent portal and gateway in our being. If you've got more access to your heart space, that's where magic happens. And that's where we really come into unity. That's where we come into communion with ourselves, with others, with the multidimensional realm, and the other races. It's a bridge between many thises and that's. The heart is the bridge, the gateway, the portal, the battery of life. Yeah. Okay. So let me glance at some notes here. Okay, I can't stall anymore. I'm not sure how long have I been talking here. Okay. So I was vetted for the SSP, and this relates to the hybrid equation. I'll try and keep this information concise so we can get into keep it close to the hybrid conference and its subject matter. So keep this tightened in a little bit. So how is DNA relevant to what I will just call the secret space programs? There's a lot to that, but just for ease of creating an umbrella term here. I was vetted because they vet people, children often, who have a lot of this activated in them, the extraterrestrial DNA and the porous kind of empathic, intuitive, indigo child, if you like, with lots of psi abilities on board. They want you. You guys know this. But they also wanted me because I had this dark reptilian energy in my DNA, in my bloodline, coming down from my mother's side of the family. Um, there is a lot of sexual trauma and dark ritual abuse coming down through her father's line, through his father, and this goes back many generations. It's a pure, old European family. To be honest, my mom's completely German on both sides of her family, and when my mom, for example, I'll use this as an example to typify how this DNA presented. When she would come in to hit me, she would get up in my face, and I would see her eyes get very. They look like snake eyes to me as a child. Like, here she goes, and the eyes would be very cold and cruel. And she had an other aspect that felt, to me now, I would call it demonic. And she would go into her rage and her violence and come out the other side and not remember who she'd been and what she'd done. So this goes back into her father. And like I said, her father's father. Her dad was a reverend. He was also, I think he was trying to get light. I think he was battling a lot of darkness, and he knew it. He could not get out of the darkness and things he had done to his own family that came into him from his ancestors. And I would call it a kind of demon, dance with the demons, dance with the devil, awful, unspeakable things. So when that's happening, and there's let's say a perpetrator, whether it be my mother, her brother, her dad, all got their hands on me when I was very small. That perpetrator is loaded with entity attachments, and the entities in the time of trauma or abuse or violation, whatever it may be, ritual, entities open a gateway for this much higher reptilian, in my case, I would say shape-shifting demonic expression to come through, very much in the bloodline. This was hard to first start talking about it. I'm like, am I insane? This is what I see. This is what's there. So that was very much wanted by the programs, because that reptilian, and I'll say Draco, DNA they're powerful, they're great warriors, they're strong, beyond compare in many ways. There's lots of Draco the Draco have hugely collaborated with dark agenda, service to self, human groups to work on these space projects. Lots of Draco out there collaborating. So many reasons why, the Draco have that what do you call it? I mean, they look at you and they know everything about you. They read you like a book in about a millisecond. Nothing can hide. They're great creators of holographic imagery. They create a whole scenario that's so real, you don't know that it's a holograph, that it's synthetic. So just to reiterate that there's a variety of reasons why that Draco DNA, highly telepathic, yeah, for sure, is desirable, as well as the more light-aligned starseed genetic for dark ops programs like the space programs. So I hope that makes sense. And I'll try and elaborate this a little bit more as I go through. And I would say my father, who himself was a Zeta hybrid, he vetted me for all of that happened. I was sent to first to the moon until the Dulce hybridization lab, Dark Fleet headquarters on the backside of the moon, which is in that day and age was run by, this is German Draco and Greys that were working the backside of the moon and had a huge galactic slave trade operation going on there. There was a great gateway, a jump gate into the Dulce, New Mexico, deep underground military base, largely run by Greys as far as I could tell. Lots of genetic hybridization of a very nefarious nature going on. with that. And then beings that were successful hybridization experiments would be cloned and then maybe marketed off world, hot commodity. I mean, DNA, as a lot of you know, is probably the hot commodity, the great currency in this area of this small little, thimbleful of cosmos. Yeah. So much to this. My father he was working for the military industrial complex, and the military, Army and Navy, had a high clearance, secret clearance before I was even born. So he basically, I think he was manipulated into basically selling my brother and myself into the programs. I also think I volunteered, but I was shown his Zeta heritage going back into Zeta Reticuli. When that race was still rather pristine, there was a time when that was the case, and this archonic energy came in and this infiltrated, let's see what we can do here. And then spawned all these other regressed races of what we call the grays. There's many expressions of gray, of Zeta. Yeah, there's a lot to that. I think I've been talking for quite a while, so I want to make sure I make use of the time and don't go over time. So, oh yeah, okay. I think I can go at this point into, I'm sure you guys have like a million questions. I just ran over that in like this much amount of time. I would say ultimately I was used as we would call it colloquially, the super soldier program. I was a highly developed cyborg asset. In super soldier talk, we would call that an asset, weaponized, with psi abilities that was then cloned, and eventually traded. I mean, it gets pretty crazy. So I'm very familiar with the Draco and their demeanor. They handled me extensively when I was on the moon, and then later on I was owned by the Draco out on Planet X. I was patrolling the atmosphere around Planet X, which is beyond the Kuiper Belt. Super far out there. It's beautiful. So my most beautiful memories come from there, from being that far out in space. But I was on a patrol. They were controlling a portal on Planet X, within Planet X, very powerful portal. And also they had a galactic slave trade sort of depot there that they were protecting. And of course I was tasked, I and others I was a pilot, tasked with protecting their assets, of which I was one of their assets. Yeah, so it goes, this story goes on and on and on of mine. If you want to find out more, you can go to my YouTube channel, Rebecca Rose, Sirius Blue on YouTube, and check out some of the material I put out. There's also a bunch of interviews around that I've done with many different people that go deeper into this story than I will go today. So coming back around to the hybrid part, which is, this story gets really light about the this dark reptilian energy, the dark Draco energy in my family, the DNA there. When I was in meditation some time ago, a while, quite a long time now, this Draco being shows up on my left. Of course, I'm like, oh, get out of here. I'm over with all that, please. Very careful. But over some days, I started to understand that the being was benevolent and wanted to make a relationship with me. Fast forward, I eventually come to understand that this very gracious being is part of me. It appears first as a green reptilian energy, green in my body, of course, because that's what happens to me. And I was very careful with this, like I said, very discerning. But her name is Tia, and I first saw her, it's like she was breaking out of this, when a baby bird is coming forth from the egg, and it's like breaking through this carapace. and the carapace around her, it was like she's breaking out of captivity. And the whole like cage was turning to dust. It was actually really beautiful. Part of her healing and my healing, because we could say one. Fast forward a little longer, over my apprenticeship with getting to know her, she's becoming lighter and lighter and becomes a white reptilian. White reptilian. I mean, this is something else. Yeah, I learned the creation story. I learned a lot about this, what was happening there. It's how this dark DNA was becoming light and being integrated. Integrating polarity in a way through my own being, my whole body, my experience. I was shown by my guides, and I met this much lighter Draco family that I recognize as my own, white winged, beautiful, luminous creatures with so much benevolence. I mean, I cried when I first met what I would call my family. They each have an individual, they're all this beautiful, luminous white, but they all have a unique field that identifies their singularity. So one has, like a pink field or a cerulean field, a turquoise field, all these gossamer pastel colors. And it's very beautiful. So I know this is incongruous because mostly we think of reptilian bad, Draco bad. And by the way, not all reptilians, there's way more reptilian races than just Draco. The Draco in particular have happened to make a very bad name for themselves in our solar system, for sure. So we are, right to be very discerning with that kind of energy. But I've also related with very luminous beings that are reptilian have no relationship to the Draco per se. So this particular group of white reptilian, this is an interesting story that I understood from my guides, was that going back into galactic history, back when the Draco were invading Lyra, beyond human reckoning, time immemorial, that the Draco were coming in to conquer Lyra. Well, this group did go for that, but they were subsumed by the light. Service to unity, let's say, versus service to self. Service to unity, Lyran collective. In essence, they became light. They became light a long, long time ago. So in some ways, I regard this essence of mine as like Draco Lyran. And at this point, I see her, myself, as evolved into it's a dragon. It's a white Lyran dragon. And I can't, with my linear mind, my cognizance, quite parse out, like my understanding of the galactic realm is actually too small to encompass this. And I can't do it justice in linear terms right here with my English. It's so big, so big. And what happened here? I transformed my DNA. I was told by my guides, you changed your DNA. Now think about the possibility there. Think about what we can do. It's just a little sliver of what is possible for us. So if I can do that, what else can I do? And what can you do? Isn't that exciting? This is super exciting. Well, you know what happens too is, just because I got on my humble healing journey and decided I was going to go down into the well of darkness and kind of get my life together again, that healing and that light goes back into the dark lineage, and it begins drop by drop, bit by bit, to transform the whole bloodline. Now, it doesn't get better than that, does it? I mean, it's really forwards and back through time. When one person in a family, maybe everybody's asleep and horribly traumatized and messed up, one person undertakes healing and awakening and a journey into wellness, the reverb of energy, the reverb of frequency that moves forwards and back, like I said, through time and space, through the bloodline, out into the cosmos, it heals. It heals. It's transformed, and it's certainly helped my heart, but it's transformed some of my mother's darkness. I see that. I've not been in relationship with her. I haven't seen her in many years, but things are shifting with us. Humble progress for sure, and it's very personal to my own journey, right? But I wanted to illustrate today how things can transform, and it's through um, our awareness of the multidimensional realm and our star heritage and being in contact with all this. Like, I couldn't have done this had I not, when my life started to fall apart hard, like rock bottom kind of thing. I was not well, when I finally took up meditation. Oh, remember when I just started and talked to you about that. If I hadn't started that, I never would have ended up with all of this. So I think part of the subtext or the fine print in all this is like, if I can do this, you can do this too, and I know it. So yeah, have faith in your own capacity. If I could come out of this swamp and be living to tell this tale openly like this, I have great faith in you. Yeah, totally great faith. All right, so I think, look at me go. I really didn't look at the start time on this, so I hope I'm not over time yet or too under time. Yeah, that's my relationship with time. It is not what we might hope. Yeah, truly multidimensional being that I am. Okay. What else did I want to say? I think before I close, I would just like to say that I really did sign up for all of this. It sounds crazy. I could blame my father up one side, down the other. I could blame the deep state. I could blame pedophiles and pornographers and human traffickers and things for so much of my experience and stay in that victim mode. And that's, I'm sure that's where I was for quite a while. But remember that I read the Akashic record. So what do I do all day is looking at the journey of the soul. Well, if I go back into my story, into the Galactic Wars, the Orion Wars, I was Syrian and I felt like I had failed. I felt like I had failed. Very much a dualized, maybe fourth density concept there. War, the game of war, light, dark, good guys, bad guys, very dualized, very dualized mechanism, even with the best of intentions. But anyway, that aside, I felt like I had failed and not really completed my mission. So I think for many lifetimes, I've been going back and coming to Earth and going into the darkest dark belly of horrible dark, belly of the beast, to understand darkness and help to vanquish it in some way, or in maybe kinder language, bring it into unity, like integrating these great polarities, these disparities, and bring things into equilibrium, bring them into unity consciousness. And I think that was my plan all along with this. Like, I said, I'll go down and check that out. I think that would be a cool mission. It's really fucked up, excuse me, but who thinks that? But if, from a galactic higher perspective or from my soul's perspective, the journey of many lifetimes, remember, this is not our first rodeo in human or non-human form. We have so much in us, like I said, and have been saying. Like, from that perspective, I totally get it. And that's a perspective that has allowed me to remain sane and stable as I've moved through the truth of my own experiences. It's deeply galactic perspective and the big picture, the big picture. On and on and on it goes. I also have a galactic aspect that has always been, and beyond space and time, on what I call the Light Alliance ship, which is Syrian, Procyon, and Pleiadians. If you want to get technical, it's a Galactic Confederation ship, but it sounds so, formal. It's casual, people in our atmosphere that are basically working for light. A ship of folks who, extraterrestrials, myself among them, who wanted to really start putting an end to the galactic slave trade. Hence, I volunteered. I also have a mate from Procyon. If you've listened to my other videos and content, you may have heard about Tyrion. He's a Nordic. My mate on the ship. So the galactic, story, the hybrid story deepens and deepens and deepens. But I know I can't stay here talking all night long. Just remember that we are, you know, powerful co-creators, all of us, and we're living in this massive opening of light. When we place our intent in alignment with the vibration of the heart, whatever it may be, maybe you want to connect more deeply with that star heritage, that extraterrestrial DNA and all that it has for you. Maybe you just want to remember what you came here for. Maybe you want to speak light language. Maybe you want a job that you enjoy. Maybe you want better harmony in relationship. Maybe you want to, you know, vanquish all the darkness in this, you know, polarity theater and really help bring the planet into unity. Whatever it may be, very small, very large, if you put your awareness in that, into that deep desire that you have, when it's aligned with the heart, you will create miracles. Keep seeing the completion of your intent, not the steps that take you there. Throw the steps away, but just align with the feeling of having done that thing, having connected with that higher galactic self, having made the journey into light language, made the journey into deeper intuition, or whatever it may be. Like I said, it could be, I need a better job, I need more income. When it's aligned with the heart's deepest passion and your purpose here, there's a great alchemy in that, and it comes from up there, and it comes from the heart. It comes from the indelible life spring, the wellspring of life inside of our genetic inheritance. So I'll leave you with that today. Don't forget your sovereign co-creator power. No matter how you identify, you are so much more than you think. Okay, and I guess I could plug my website, Rebecca Rose Barfoot. That's BARFOOT.com. You can hook up with me there for sessions if you want an Akashic reading. I do starseed coaching, galactic attunements, personal light language sessions, and so much more, so much more. You can find your way to my website. And again, I said Sirius Blue on YouTube if you want to learn a little bit more, maybe a lot about my journey.
Dice che con il makanira dinke sto che con ma katomia yari mi so con mekanini sto yari mi ke con shi kon.
Gotcha. When you place your feet on the ground, your hands toward the sky, put your awareness in your heart, and you remember infinitely and always indelibly who you are. Remember, don't take yourself so seriously. You've been doing that for many lifetimes. Look up and you will find a much more playful realm in which to exist. Bring that back down to earth because we need that here. Okay. Bye, you guys. I hope to see you again sometime soon.